everyone, welcome back to the Bundesliga show. Myself and Runa checking in for another match day preview and fantasy football show this evening. So I hope everyone is tuning in is doing well. Runa, how are you doing? You've been doing some late night hours over in Copenhagen watching the Champions League, I believe.
Yeah, I have to admit I'm a bit tired today. Got home pretty late last night after the Champions League game, but covering the Champions League is always a lot of fun. And it was a great atmosphere in Copenhagen. A lot of stuff from the fans going on, and Copenhagen scoring the first goal at home in the Champions League this season. So yeah, that was great fun.
Excellent stuff, and we've had all sorts of representatives checking the Champions League footy because Mark was out of the Bayern game, which will be released as a vlog in the coming days as well. So you've got that to look forward to. So yeah, we're covering it all here, which is fantastic stuff. Just before we get started, bit of admin as per usual. We are indeed in partnership with the brilliant Bully News, which Runa is editor-in-chief of. So go there for all your fantasy football articles, long reads, match day previews, tactical analysis, obviously with Peter, who we've had on the show, and everything else in between in English. So yeah, make sure you go and check that out. And please do make sure you smash a like on the video whilst you're watching. That'd be fantastic. Comment along. Let's get a load of questions in for what is the penultimate fantasy show before we go to the World Cup. So that's very sad, but yeah, loads. If you've got questions, get them in this week, so you don't forget, and you get mainly Runa's advice on what to do. And please do press the red button and subscribe. We're almost at 700 subs, I believe, but we really want to keep on pushing up and up towards the 1K mark and beyond. Right, so enough of that, and on to business, Runa. So we've got 3 match weeks until the World Cup break, and we've got what over in Germany is known as an English week, as we've got midweek fixtures coming up as well as this weekend. So a load of things to be wary of fantasy football wise. So we'll get started with your free defender picks, so budget, mid-price, and premium, and I shall attempt to keep up and show them on the screen as well whilst Runa's going through it all. So over to you, Runa.
Yeah, thanks. My budget pick this week is Anthony Jung, and that's mainly because with Werder playing Schalke at home, they're surely one of the teams to target this week. So 50% of the managers already have Mitchell Weiser, and understandably so, but maybe you're looking to double up on Werder in defense, or maybe you want a differential. And if you do, then Anthony Jung is a pretty good shout too. He scored 17 points last week and cost just 3.2 million. The only thing you need to be wary about is that Werder played Bayern in midweek. So you might choose not to bring too many Werder players into your side, because then you might have to get them out in midweek and use your transfers on that. So maybe try to get 2 or maximum of 3 Werder players in your side. That would be my suggestion. And my mid-price pick this week is Lucas Kübler, who's back in form after a long spell on the sidelines, and he's won back his starting place at the expense of Sildilia at the right side of the fence for Freiburg, and he's been really good in his last 2 games, 13 points and then 12 points last week. So he's doing quite well, and his ownership is quite low because he's been out for so long, and people need to recognize that he's back. So a pretty good option there, and a pretty differential one too. And then finally, I'm suggesting Rafael Guerreiro, and it all depends on whether he plays or not, if he's fit or not. Edin Terzic said earlier this week that he's hopeful of having Guerreiro and Reus fit again for the game against Bochum. And of course, if he's past fit to play there, and it looks like he will start against Bochum at home, then Guerreiro is a really intriguing option. But if not, it's something that you need to maybe check up on tomorrow and see what's being written and what's being said ahead of the game. And if not, then I think Bensebaini is a good option. Costs just about the same and plays on Friday at home against Stuttgart. So so he's another good option this week in the same price category.
Yeah, absolutely. Some good picks there. So yeah, make sure that you're tracking it. From what Rune is saying, just making sure that come to questions as soon as they come in, as quickly as we can do. FBL Trini, evening to you, has asked Rune along those lines of Ben Spiani, as we've got him on screen, very relevant. Is he out this week? Saw something from Farke, but not concrete.
He's been past fit to play. Farke said something yesterday. Ben Spiani had picked up a knock in training, but from what I saw earlier today, he was past fit, and Farke said he's ready to play.
Absolutely, good stuff. Some nice comments in from Quick R, Runa, effing legend. Your tips last match day was spot on. Thanks. Yeah, absolutely, they were incredibly good. The tips really worked out for me as well. I think I had my best ever fancy football haul for a week. I got 170 points, so not too bad.
I hope someone brought in Felix Meka, because I didn't do it myself, and then I saw him do that well, and I thought, man, should have listened to myself.
Yeah, I was literally thinking about you when I saw him scoring. I was like, I was so close to bringing him in as well. Yeah, so some really good advice from yourself, Runa. So question in from Jeff. Evening to you, Jeff. And it's basically the same question that Superstar has asked as well. So basically, keep or sell Sousa, and is it still worth having him in on Friday versus Gladbach? So Sousa was someone I brought in, as I think his ownership was quite low, but it may have increased after the weekend.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think he's worth keeping if you already own him. I'm not sure I would sell him if I were in that position, especially because the next game against Hertha looks pretty good too, and Gladbach have been in poor form. So I'm not sure at all that Gladbach will just go on and win that game. And as we all know, Sousa has an incredible ceiling, and if Stuttgart is going to get something from that game, then Sousa is quite likely to be involved.
Absolutely. And just a comment from Quickar, I think he just picked up on the fact that you can favorite a player so that you don't miss them on the app. I think it's a lot easier to do when you're on a PC or a laptop. I haven't spotted it on the app on your phone, but maybe you can do. But yeah, so you can favorite players so you can come back to them much quicker, so you're not faffing around as well. So good stuff. I think that's all the questions so far, but keep them coming, guys. Make sure that you're dropping a like on the show as well. But yeah, get your questions in and we'll get them answered as soon as possible. But yeah, on to midfielders then, Runa, and I'll bring them up on the banner below right now. So yes, over to you, starting with your budget pick for this week.
Yeah, thanks. My budget pick this week is Leonardo Bittencourt, who started out really well this season, but then picked up an injury, and it ruined his rhythm a little bit. But it looks like he's starting to get up to full speed again, and he was back in the starting lineup last week. And I think he's likely to keep his starting spot against Schalke, because Werder will probably approach that game in a quite attacking way and try to win it. And I think he has the potential to do well. His ownership is down to 1%, so a differential option there, quite like Meka last week, perhaps. We'll see. And my mid-price pick is Lars Stindl, who after a few quiet games, he had a pretty good game last week in terms of fantasy output, at least, and picked up 10 points, despite the fact that Gladbach played a pretty difficult away game against Union Berlin, and very few of the players actually did well. So, and then now Gladbach have two quite favorable matchups against Stuttgart and Bochum, and the first one being a standalone fixture on Friday. So I think Stindl is a good shout if you back Gladbach to win the Friday game. And then finally, Leon Goretzka. I've been asked a few times if he's maybe a better option than Kimmich in midfield. And I think it makes sense to ask that question now, because over the last few weeks, I think he's consistently been doing better than Kimmich, and at the moment I would probably rather pick Goretzka if I were to pick between him and Kimmich. The advantage with Kimmich is that he's nailed on to play all games, but Goretzka is playing a lot of minutes at the moment. He's in great form, so I think he's a quite good pick at the moment, and his ownership is 10%, which is not too high considering his importance and the fact that he plays for Bayern.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple more questions are coming in. So another one from Jeff. So let's get that up on screen for you, Bruna. So aside from Stindl and Bittencourt, who are your favourite midfielders with stand-alone matches? Too soon for Hoffman? Question mark.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too soon for Hoffman. We can see if he's in the starting lineup, but I would probably choose Stindl over him at the moment because we don't know which condition he's in after his time out. And yeah, looking at the standalone matches, let me see. Of course, Freiburg have some good options. Grifo is pretty self-explanatory, but also Ritsu Doan is usually a pretty good pick. And then I don't know. I think the Leverkusen and Berlin game is. I don't think those two teams have that many good midfielders. They have some interesting players at other positions. So I think it's. Yeah, I don't have that many other suggestions actually. If we're looking at the standalone fixtures.
Yeah, just recalling the standalone fixture Freiburg versus Cologne. Myself and Mark are doing a watch along on Sunday for that, so Sunday afternoon. So make sure you check in and watch along with us. We want to try and get as much done as we can do before the World Cup break. So yeah, Sunday watch along. Make sure you tune in for that. Superstar has asked Runa, what about Julian Brandt?
Yeah, I think Brandt is a very good option this week. And I've also suggested him in my weekly article, which is out on Bully News now. A good shout too, and a great alternative to Bellingham, who will play FPL Trini. I'm pretty sure he'll play because he was rested against Copenhagen and is fit, so can't see why he shouldn't play. And Bellingham, of course, is close to a must-have, I think, at the moment, especially with considering the matchup Dortmund have this week. But I think Brandt is a really good differential and a good alternative to him.
Yeah, very low percentage at 4% at the moment. Yeah, you've just covered FPL Trini asking about Bellingham. Quickar has put, how much does supporting a certain club affect your picks for fantasy football? I often find myself picking players from the club I support, even though I might not be the smartest idea points-wise. Of course, we all know that Runa is completely impartial, which helps you make very smart decisions, doesn't it? Or that's the idea anyway.
Yeah, it is. I'm trying to close down all my feelings when I'm picking my fantasy team, but I totally know the feeling. I think everyone does. All fantasy managers knows that feeling. But I think it's about like looking at it in a cynical way and looking at the statistics and not always trust your gut feelings of where you really would like to win, do well.
Yeah, I think I'm there. Well, I mean, it's quite easy for me not to pick VfB Stuttgart players, to be frankly honest, other than the mighty Bjorn Sousa down the wing. Although we have had some better performances and better performers in the recent weeks. But yeah, completely agree with your point there, Quick Eye. It does make it much trickier. Jeff has asked about Bellingham, but yeah, we've already covered that. And one more thing that's come in from Try Banovsky. What do you think about doubling up in midfield with Kimmich and Goretzka? Obviously, we just covered Goretzka as one of your picks, Runa. But yeah, what do you think about doubling up on Bayern?
At the moment, I don't think Kimmich is really worth his price tag, and he hasn't been for a while. I think there are a lot of really intriguing options in midfield. So I would probably go with Goretzka out of those two at the moment, and I wouldn't double up because, as I said, with the likes of Bellingham and Grifo and Soboslai, Lindström, whatever, a lot of really, really good options in midfield who are doing really well on a consistent basis. Then I'm just not. I just don't feel that Kimmich is worth it at the moment. He needs to show a bit more attacking wise for me to get on that train again.
Yeah, completely agree. And one more midfield question in from Jeff, and he has asked about Kamada, Lindström, or pass on SG Frankfurt entirely. I mean, they'll still be on cloud nine, no doubt, from their brilliant qualification through to the last 16 of the Champions League. And I mean, they were seconds from top in the group. How amazing would that have been? But are you passing on Frankfurt this week or the next 2 match day weeks, Rune?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think both Kamada and Lindström are pretty good options, and Frankfurt have a nice matchup against Augsburg. I'm not really sure who I fancy the most. I think Kamada is probably more nailed on to play at the moment. He's really stepped up in terms of importance. But Lindström, of course, he's been doing really, really well fantasy-wise in the Bundesliga. If you look at his numbers in the last 5 match days, it's completely crazy how well he's been doing, and he's outscored Kamada by a wide margin. So difficult, actually, I think, especially because Kamada is likely to play a bit more in a central midfield role, whereas Lindström will play as an attacking midfield winger. So probably leaning towards Lindström at the moment, but that's because I think he has a higher ceiling, the higher ceiling of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kamada in that 6th position, though, his clinicality has gone up a rate of notches this season. And it's one thing that we always say about Kamada in previous seasons gone by, that what a player he is. But if he could add that finishing touch, then my. But yeah, he's been doing so amazingly so far this season. Right. Anyway, on to the money makers, the strikers, Rune. So we'll get that ticking along below. Budget, mid-price, and premium. And I think we're probably seeing a debut for a certain name that you're going to mention in a moment. So let's get cracking with the strikers.
Yeah, my budget pick this week is Erik Maxim Choupo-Moting, and I actually chose to bring him in myself last week. When Müller was ruled out, I felt pretty certain that Choupo would play again, especially with the form he was in. It looked like he would play anyway, actually, at that point. And as we all know, he's on a bit of a hot streak. Just can't stop scoring at the moment, and I don't think Nagelsmann can take him out or wants to take him out of the lineup at the moment with the form he's in. And of course, the fact that he costs a little and has relatively low ownership too makes him really, really appealing. He plays for the best team in the league, and he's just playing with a lot of confidence at the moment. So doesn't get much better than that if you're looking for a budget option up front.
He's getting involved in everything, isn't he, so far? Like all the build-up, linking the play really well. It's not just that he's scoring these tap-ins or these headers. He is really being involved in everything that Bayern do going forward. So,
Yeah, exactly. And then moving on to my mid-price pick, and that's Niklas Füllkrug this week. And actually, I chose Choupo-Moting last week instead of Füllkrug. I took a bit of a gamble there, and it looked like it would really pay off until Füllkrug scored an inch or late in the Werder game. Choupo still did a bit better, but of course Füllkrug scored 2 and picked up 13 points, and he has a really, really attractive matchup this week against Schalke, and I think I need to stick him in my side in some way because he has a lot of potential this week. That's clear to everyone. And then finally, Marcus Thuram is my premium pick. And I know he didn't do much last week, but as we all know, he's been in outstanding form this season. And even the games Gladbach have lost, he stepped up and scored and performed well fantasy-wise too, maybe with the exception of last week. And Gladbach are in poor form, but they have two good matchups against Stuttgart and Bochum, as we talked about earlier. So I think he remains a very good option up front, and that's kind of what's my problem this week is that I have Musiala, Chubu, and Thuram already, and I really want Füllkrug too. So I'm kind of considering what to do and which one of them to potentially sell to get Füllkrug in, because I don't think it's easy, and there are a lot of really good options up front this week.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So let's come to some extra questions. Sorry about my mouse going a little bit crazy, going up and down the page there. Let's hope I don't do that anymore. Right. So a couple of questions. FBL Trini has asked, who's on penalties for Frankfurt? Last I checked, it was Kamada. Runa, is that roundabout okay?
Yeah, looks like it's Kamada. He took the last penalty.
Yeah, good stuff. Next in from FBL Trini, is it worth taking out Musiala for Chupo? If not, who would you take out instead? My forward line is Musiala, Thuram, and Becker. I mean, Rooney, you've kind of covered the Chupo angle there, so maybe give FBL Trini a bit of a rating or a bit of advice on his front line there.
Yeah, I would probably rather take out Becker actually, because I think Becker has struggled recently. He's not living up to the things he showed at the start of the season. His form has been, he suffered a bit form wise. So I think you could sell Becker and then bring in Füllkrug or Chubu instead. That would make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Superstar has asked about Marvin Dushk. One of those players that has certainly been doing really well in this Werder team, but for me, just maybe lacking a bit of that clinical edge, Runa, or would you like to maybe see him included?
Yeah, if you look at his numbers from the second Bundesliga last season, he was amazing there, also in terms of scoring goals. But I agree, Rory, he's not exactly lived up to that in the Bundesliga yet. He scored a few goals and he's set up some goals too, but I still think he has more in him than that. But at the moment, I think probably depends on your position in the standings. If you want to play safe, then Füllkrug is the way to go. But if you want to go with a different option, then try to climb the rankings in case Dux suddenly does well and Füllkrug doesn't, and then I think he's a very good shout and a great differential this week.
Yeah, I'm very much at that point where I am doing differentials a lot to try and make up the difference. And hence why I actually had a good week last week, as I mentioned. Jeff just saying, I have to feel good when all three strikers that you recommended are already on my roster. So yeah, very good, Jeff. Kind of in line with Ruda's thinking there. Any more striker questions, do get them into the comments as soon as possible before we kind of start to close things down. Going a little bit backwards in terms of on-pitch position, FBL Trini has asked Runa, is Sipel and Blaswich pairing good at least until the World Cup?
Yeah, I think so. That's the pairing I have in my team at the moment. Sommer could potentially return before the World Cup, but for now I think it's a pretty ideal combination because they're both playing for really quite good teams, and they're really cheap too. So and have different kickoff times. So yeah, I'm happy with those two.
Very good. Excellent stuff. So at the moment, we don't have any more questions in. So we'll start to round up. I'd say that as soon as I say that, the question comes in. Of course it does. Try Banovsky has asked, let's get that up on screen. Is Nkunku a must-have pick? Even Leipzig face two good teams in the next two match days. Obviously involved in a really good result for Leipzig midweek and what looked like a really tricky matchup for them to finish second and qualify, but they did that. They did so in style, Runa. So yeah, keeping Nkunku in, is that a must-have, or have you played around with that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not considering selling him at all. He's almost fixture proof, I'd say, and I don't think their schedule is that tough actually. To be honest, I mean Hoffenheim away is it's not an easy fixture, but Hoffenheim are missing some of the most important defenders. Looks like Kevin Vogt won't play, and Ozan Kabak is suspended too. So I think Leipzig should have a good chance of at least scoring a few goals there. And then they have Freiburg at home, if I remember correctly, and Werder away. So I think that's okay actually, and especially with Nkunku's potential and what he usually shows, then I wouldn't consider selling him.
Yeah, absolutely. And one kind of last comment that we'll probably cover from Abdullah is any update on Neuer. There's been a few articles that have been coming out in the last few days. Runa, you'll probably be more up to date on this than me, but I can't see Neuer's return being anytime soon. Or what have you seen?
The last thing I read actually was that he could play this weekend already against.
Okay.
I think it was a Bild report saying that he's back in full training, and if nothing happens in training tomorrow, if there's no signs of the injury, he's not in any pain, then he should be able to play on Saturday. But let's wait and see tomorrow what's being written and what Nagelsmann says. But there is a possibility that Neuer will play again this week, and if not this time, then probably the game after that.
Yeah, I suppose that depends on how desperate Nagelsmann is to bring him back in, based on the form of their substitute keeper last weekend, obviously giving away a penalty and giving away the second goal to Mainz. One final question. Superstar has asked best forward from BVB for you, Runa. So who to include from the Dortmund side?
Yusuf Moukoko. I actually think Moukoko has gone a bit under the radar maybe this season, and especially the matchup Dortmund have against Bochum at home makes him very intriguing. And if it wasn't for the other good forwards I'm considering, then I would really think about bringing in Moukoko. So I think he's a very good differential this week, and he was rested in the Champions League last night. Came on after about an hour or something like that, and hit the post and provided an instant spark for Dortmund. So he should start again and could do really well against Bochum.
Smashing stuff. So that's us for tonight. Thanks again, as always, for everyone tuning in and for your questions. Really appreciate them. Love this show and how much interaction we're getting from it all, and how brilliant Runa's tips are for everyone. So closing up, of course, make sure that you go to Twitter at OverTheBarFB and at OverTheBarExtra, and of course Bully News at bullynews.com. On Twitter, go find them. The website, www.otbfootball.net. And please do make sure that you like the show. Really helps with the algorithms to push the show forward. Comment along. If you've not got your comment in live watching the show, put it in the comments section below, and we'll try and triage them up until Friday, the Friday evening kickoff. Please do press the red button and subscribe to the channel. Remember to watch out for Sunday. Watch along Freiburg versus Cologne. Myself and Mark back for a match day. Watch along. Not done that for ages. And we'll be tuning in on Tuesday night rather than Monday, and doing a bit of a live kind of watch along with the games kind of coming in and reacting to the goals as well. So we'll be covering those games as well. So make sure you join us then. So that's it from me. So thanks again to everyone. Thanks, Runa, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye-bye.